Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us here this evening. Go ahead and call this meeting of the City Council and meeting in public hearing of June 15th, 2026. I'll call it to order. And before we get started, there have been a few changes from the printed agenda, so don't want you to waste your time here if something's not going to be heard that you came for. So the following items have been deferred or withdrawn and will not be considered this evening. First being the ordinance amendments for Chapter 20, Fire Prevention and Protection. That's not going to be heard this evening, nor is the ordinance amendments for the alcohol ordinance text amendments. So if you were here for either of those, you just saved yourself a few hours perhaps, and they will be taken up at another time. I'll note for the record, all members of council are present and accounted for. And as always, we begin our meetings with a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're willing and able, please stand and join us. So the first item up on the agenda will be presentations and proclamations. And it just so happens that this is a well-timed proclamation for the Daughters of the American Revolution, America 250. And I believe I'll be meeting representatives from the Daughters of the American Revolution right down front if you would like to join me for the proclamation presented. Who would like to speak on behalf of the Daughters of the American Revolution?
Oh, I can.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Thank you so much. We are thrilled to be here this evening and celebrating America 250. I was just counting it today, 20 days, around 20 days until July 4th. And it's going to be it's an exciting time to be alive in our country and just remembering our ancestors who fought in the revolution and participated, and then those that came after, that they laid the groundwork for others to come to our country and enjoy the freedoms that we have today. And we're just really happy to celebrate with y'all.
Well, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to say anything? Okay. I just read it. Thank you, though. But we are grateful for your service to our community. It's great to remind people how this great nation began and how it's been able to sustain for 250 years. So I will be glad to read this proclamation for the mayor, by the mayor and city council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, recognizing the Patriots of Liberty Chapter, National Society Daughters of the American Revolution in commemoration of America 250. Whereas on July 4th, 2026, our nation will commemorate the semi-quincentennial, first time I've ever said that word before, the semi-quincentennial of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And whereas this milestone offers the residents of Alpharetta an opportunity to reflect on our nation's history and renew our commitment to the ideals of liberty and democracy. And whereas the state of Georgia, one of the original 13 colonies established in 1733 by James Oglethorpe, played a vital role in the American Revolution, and whereas the Patriot of Liberty Chapter, National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, based in Alpharetta, Georgia, actively serves our community by preserving history, promoting education, and honoring the legacy of our nation's patriots. And whereas The chapter proudly supports the America 250 initiative through local programs and service to our Alpharetta community. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council of the city of Alpharetta, do hereby recognize the Patriots of Liberty chapter of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution for their dedication to preserving our nation's history and commend them for their continued service, educational outreach, and commitment to honoring the legacy of America's patriots as we commemorate America 250. So proclaimed, this 15th day of June, 2026, by the mayor and the city council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Great way to start a meeting.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you for letting us meet in the community room. We so appreciate it. We so appreciate it.
So the next portion of our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the city council meeting minutes from the meeting of June 1st, 2026. It also contains the conflict waiver with Gerard and Davis LLP joint representation, Brookside Village sewer easement with Portman Residential LLC, and the financial management report for the month ending April 30th, 2026. Is there anyone who would like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, do we have a public comment card on the consent agenda?
No, sir, we do not.
However, if anyone wants to come forward and speak on the consent agenda, now's your chance. I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
So move. Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel to approve the consent agenda, second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. So now we'll move on to the public hearing portion of this evening's agenda. First, we'll begin with our city attorney, Ms. S. Wine. If you would please announce the public hearing procedures.
An individual requesting to be heard on a matter related to the purpose of the hearing must be recognized by the mayor before addressing the city council. Upon rising to speak, the speaker must identify himself or herself and furnish a home or business address before proceeding with any comments or remarks. The council will allow the proponents a total of 10 minutes to speak in support of an application. Opponents will be allowed 10 minutes to speak in opposition. Comments are accepted first from the applicant, followed by persons speaking in favor, and then from those in opposition. Upon conclusion of any opposing comments or presentations, the mayor will allow the applicant to offer rebuttal if any time is remaining in the originally allotted 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. And so the first item in the public hearing is PH-26-AL-02, minimum distance requirement waiver request for 211 Market Street, Suite 5C. Ms. Orhusky, I believe you have this item this evening.
Yes, sir, I do. Just a brief overview of this before we allow the applicant to come up and address any questions you may have. This is for Grove and Barrel Provisions LLC, which will be located at 211 Market Street, Suite 5C. The applicant is seeking a variance from the city's alcohol ordinance distance requirements to allow the sale of bottles of wine for off-premise consumption. The applicant has provided a distance survey which shows the required distances from a church, school, and public park are not met. The location is 172 feet from First Baptist Church, 172 feet from Alpharetta Christian Academy, and 285 feet from Brook Street Park. Section 417E of the City of Alphareta's code allows the city council to grant variances to the local minimum distance requirements. Staff has reviewed the request and confirmed that all required application materials were submitted, all required notifications have been made, and the applicant meets all other requirements of the code for this variance request. Staff is supportive of this variance request. As you will note in the staff report, the location is in an area of the downtown district located near several eating establishments with on-premises consumption licenses, so this would not fall outside of, the norm for the area. The granting of the variance will not diminish any property values for the same reasons. And I believe that's it. If you have any questions for me or for staff, Brett Schroeder is also here to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Orhowski?
Nope.
You must have done a great job.
All
Nobody
right.
had any questions.
Well, if Mr. Juncosa would come up, he will provide some additional information and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. You might have to push the button on that.
Okay, I think we're on.
That way, people watching you all over the world online might be able to hear you.
Will not be the first one related to the little retail shop. So any questions that anybody may have? We're planning on opening a little retail store specializing in olive oils and vinegars and food from Europe and promote some healthy diet. And with that, it comes some wines. So I have included a very curated list of about 30 labels of wines to take home and enjoy with your meals. And that's why I need the variance for being able to sell those wines to my clients. So and create some great memories around the city of Alpharetta.
Thank you, sir. Do you have Councilman Hypes? We'll see if any council members might have a question about your option.
I know you as Jose. How do you say your last name?
Juncosa.
Jose. If you could share with us some of the international influences that you bring to your place of establishment.
Of course.
In terms of you and your bride.
Of course, I'll be happy to. Well, basically, as well, you know, the birthplace of the olive oil culture is the Mediterranean basin. So I'm from Spain originally. I was born in Barcelona, Spain, many, many months ago. So I'm bringing food from Spain, I'm bringing food from Italy, I'm bringing food from Greece, I'm bringing food from Turkey. And also some additions from South America, because, for example, the county of Peru is producing now incredible oil and is becoming agriculturally very strong. So they earn their representation into the retail shop as well. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? One question I have is, how did you end up in Alpharetta?
Well, because I love the community here. I live not far in Johns Creek, but with my lovely wife, we love to come here, dine around, walk around, do shopping. And when the opportunity presented to be part of that, community down here, I think I wanted to take it.
That's fantastic. I was just curious because I've noticed, I'm sure the rest of council has, we've had, I believe, 3 European restaurants that have recently decided to invest in our community in downtown.
Yeah, you're attracting a lot of attention right now.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Orhusky, do we have any public comment cards in favor of this item?
No, sir, we do not.
Do we have any public comment cards in opposition to this item?
No, sir, we do not.
However, if anyone wants to come forward and speak, now's your chance to do so. I don't see anyone coming forward. We'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would propose that we offer approval for PH-26-AL-02 minimum distance requirement waiver request for 211 Market Street, Suite 5C.
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel, a second by Councilman Hypes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And it did pass unanimously. So the next item up on our agenda. Next item is the fiscal year 2027 budget and millage rate levy. This is the third public hearing. Director Harris, pardon, Tom Harris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, this is the third of 3 public hearings in accordance with state law, the purpose of which is to make sure we have an opportunity for the public to come and ask questions regarding the budget. And after we close this public hearing, which will not have any vote, we then have the 2 items under new business or old business or one of the businesses. But that's it. That's all I have for public hearing piece.
Do we have any questions for Director Harris? I don't see anyone that has questions. Since we're not voting on this item, Ms. Orhusky, do we have any public comment cards?
No, sir, we do not.
However, if anyone here wants to come forward and speak on this budget item, now's your chance. I do not see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. We prepared to move to the next item? All right. So the next item will be, that was deferred, so it's not going to be the fire prevention and protection. So we'll move on to the ordinance for the alcohol text amendments.
That has also been deferred.
That was also deferred. Oh, okay. Moving right along. We'll move on to new business. Thank you. Fiscal year 2027 millage rate ordinance. Ms. Eswine, please read the ordinance title aloud.
An ordinance by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, to fix the ad valorem tax rate of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027, and for other purposes.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Tom, you have another opportunity to speak.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading of the ordinance adopting the millage rate for fiscal year 2027. There's been no changes since the first reading. It adopts a 5.05 mils for operations and a 0.70 mils for debt service at the same, when you add those together, it's 5.75, which is the same millage rate we've had for quite some time. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone on council have a question for Director Harris? Councilwoman Reeves?
Fulton County Tax Assessors does not actually send us the final figure until later in the month. Is that correct?
They'll submit preliminary figures
Yeah, they got, but we
soon,
haven't.
probably could be.
Soon.
I was
As we all
expecting it today,
anticipate,
yes.
its arrival.
Yeah,
All right, but this is a good judgment based on what you've heard so
Correct,
far.
yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Director Harris? Thank you, sir. Ms. Orhusky, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
No, sir, we do not.
However, if there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak on this item, now's your opportunity to do so. I do not see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2027 millage rate ordinance as presented.
Have a motion by Councilman Brady, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. So Ms. Eswine, I believe I need to ask you to read the ordinance for the fiscal year 2027 budget ordinance.
An ordinance by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, adopting the final estimates of revenue and expenditures for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2026, and ending on June 30th, 2027, as its annual budget, appropriating the use of funds shown therein as may be needed or deemed necessary to defray all expenditures and liabilities of the city for such fiscal year, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Harris, once again.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading of budget ordinance adopting the annual operating and capital budget for fiscal year 2027. Overall, it approximates about $182.5 million for all funds, and the general fund is approximately $107 million. There's been no changes since the first reading as well.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any questions for Director Harris on this item? Ms. Orhusky, do we have any public comment cards?
No, sir, we do not.
However, if anyone would like to come forward, now is your chance to do so. I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2027 budget ordinance as presented.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilman Brady, a second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion? Councilman Dorito.
Thank you, Mayor. First, Tom, I'd like to thank you, Sean, and the audience, your entire team, working along with Mayor Gilvin, all our department directors, in getting the budget to this point this evening. For quite a number of years, the city has done a tremendous job in managing the taxpayers' dollars and the funds we receive elsewhere to operate the city and basically with increased needs of services, keeping our services at a very high level to our residents. I don't think, Mayor, we've had a millage rate increase for 19 or 20 years now if this gets approved this evening at the city level. So the city's done a really good job, and your team should be commended because you've been in your position for quite a while, Tom, and in managing the growth of the city, the growth in the tax digest, which has allowed us to continue to fund all the necessary things that a great city needs, and that we, as the city council and prior city councils, have actually demanded of our city as representing our constituents. When you look at this year's budget, we have a 3.9% increase in operating expense revenue. Even though our expenses have increased probably by 4.5% with the full year's jail number in there, we really only had an increase of 3.7% because I know we're going to talk here shortly about monetization of our jail that we opened up recently, which will hopefully offset some of the costs of operating the jail as the city decided to do some months ago. Even our increase in our payroll, I think, is at 5.5% as a whole. You have to consider, I think we hired 15 people to operate the jail. So that had a big impact on that percentage. But all in all, it's a balanced budget. It fully funds public safety, fully funds all the road infrastructure projects that the city council wants to see happen in Alpharetta in the coming year. And it also, I think takes care of all our employees as far as making sure that they're at competitive salaries and that the benefits package that we give to all employees are at a level that we want to be competitive in the region, which is representative of a growing regional city, a business hub that we want to maintain that. So the employees are really critical in the success we've had in the city, and much credit goes to the entire staff of 500 plus employees that have done such a marvelous job on our behalf. I always say they make us look good up here on the dais as far as the elected officials. We actually have the easy job. It's the employees that have made the city what it is today. with the support of many volunteers and people in the community, but I'm proudly supporting this budget this evening because it continues the great fiscal management and fiscal policies that have been consistently applied, not only by this mayor and this council, but previous mayor and councils as well. So we're kind of a unique city, I think, in that regard, where we don't try to spend things on political pet projects and things of that nature. And we, as I said in the past, we collaborate really well up here. And that's important to have a thriving city and to continue to attract increases in our tax digest to manage the city in a way that keeps us an attractive business hub for not only the region but for the country. So thank you, Tom, to you and your staff, and Mayor. I know May has been very involved from the start in this year's budget process, and I think Mayor Gilman, since you've been mayor, you run a pretty good ship as far as maintaining the millage rate and still achieving a lot of the great successes we've seen under his tutelage. So, and I want to thank the public for their support in the process. You could see, I remember back in early 2000s when I was in my first stint on the council, we would have people coming here either complaining about the budget or concerned about the budget. And the fact that we don't really have many people in the audience here, and maybe they're looking online, but we don't have a lot of complaints. So the fact that we don't tells us we're doing something right. So thank you very much, Tom. Thank you.
Any other? Councilwoman Reeves.
Ditto to what my fellow councilman said. That being said, I want the public to know that we've had conversations as a council back to January. And so much of this has been discussed along the way. And I think that we've highlighted throughout that process that it was not an easy year to make it all work out, and that we were probably facing some future hard decisions, because as much as everybody looks at those big houses and they think we're rolling in dough, there's a lot of services to provide for our city that our city expects, and they should. And I hope that next year everybody's paying attention, because I think there will be some tough conversations, and I think that the strategic plan process will really be a great opportunity for us to inform the direction that we want to take budget-wise for the next year. So thanks to everybody. It was a fun first budget.
Councilman Brady.
Yeah, I just want to add some comments and resonate on some of those pieces. First of all, thank Tom and Sean, the finance department and leadership kind of going through it. It was tough, right? We have some headwinds, which everyone has. In our commercial department, we've seen office space, we've seen the mall. There's been a decline in some tax revenues that have been out there. So we have to do more with less, and that's just the reality of what we're working through. But I can say one thing that I've heard more this year than I think I've heard any other year that has a lot of sensitivity. We have over $40 million that comes from property taxes, and it's becoming very popular of not paying property taxes. From the city's perspective up here is to create that lifestyle and infrastructure that we have for all the services that we have out there. I wish more of us were asking those questions. How is that going to be replaced? And I just kind of want to make that comment. So when people hear that, ask the questions. How do we replace those property taxes? $40 million a year makes this city, really operate, right? I mean, from majority of the tax revenue that's brought in. But for the first year, I hear it more and more, and it just kind of it creates a lot of sensitivity of planning and how our planning is done and how we fiscally look at those impacts. That might be the next session, the next session after that. So I do think it's something that's going to get more momentum, and it's something we really need to be focused on as a city to kind of watch every little bit of the management that we have. So thank you for everything, but also just kind of resonate that there is some headwinds up there that we don't really know are coming or the details of them. But thank you so much, Director Harris, for all of your work. Thank you.
Councilman Ives.
I was going to leave it to all the good comments that had been said, but I want to jump on what Councilman Brady had to say. And it's been said, and you've said it, if politicians who don't rely on property taxes want to talk about eliminating property taxes for those of us who do rely upon it, then it's incumbent upon them. And members, residents of our city, business owners, it's incumbent upon you to challenge the person making that statement. What are you going to replace it with? And, the possibilities are only a few. And if you get rid of income tax and you get rid of property tax, you're pretty much left with sales tax. And if it's sales tax, just bear in mind that if you live in an affluent community that makes a lot of purchasing, and if a lot of that purchasing is done online, as is the case many ways, those sales tax dollars are going to go to the county. They're going to get distributed out based on population, not based on how many dollars were spent by whom. So we can be a city of 67,000 people, and we could spend twice our population, and another city in this county with a lower population spending less money. When the money is distributed by the county to run our city school systems, et cetera, when it goes based on population, we're going to be on the short end of the stick. So if you like $1 million community and you live in $1 million home, or a $500,000 home in a $500,000 community, you have, with your property, you have invested where you live, and your dollars will go back into where you live, and it will be commensurate with the life that you have chosen where you live to a great degree. But if you want to default to sales tax dollars, just understand we'll have an entirely new model. It will be disadvantageous to this city, and the things that you have enjoyed, you will not enjoy in the future. So it may be a popular talking point amongst politicians at a state or a higher level to eliminate property taxes, but make them answer your question. Say, what are you going to replace it with, and how will that affect my community, my home, my investment, where I live, and how I choose to live? Thank you.
Any other discussion? Well, I would like to add on to that, only because that is a very big potential in the upcoming election. I mean, let's look at all the campaigns that have been run. All of the candidates for governor want to get rid of property taxes. And I don't have a problem with that. And because I was so vocal about how I thought they did a poor job in this last legislative session, I want to give some grace that I am aware there are already discussions being taken place. Some of our local representatives, some of our statewide representatives, and people who have actually been mayors in North Fulton are at the table. What a radical idea to have some of the cities and their mayors and their finance directors having discussions about that. I don't know what'll come about, but I feel like we're in a better place now because there were a lot of candidates that took a lot of lumps, deservedly so, for just pulling something out of thin air without discussing with all of the cities that will be impacted by that. So we do need to be aware that there's some uncertainty what it'll look like. But I do believe that there's an opportunity for, one of the challenges we've had is the loss distribution. I think if you're going to be able to finance cities like Alpharetta that are high revenue generators for the county, there's going to have to be compensation for where those revenues are generated that will benefit the cities. Our daytime population is nearly double what our nighttime population. So by state constitution now, it's distributed by the population. So Johns Creek gets much more of the sales tax generated at Avalon than we do in Alpharetta. And I've always thought that was not a well thought out way to take care of revenues and the impacts to those communities that generate it. But I think if we want to get rid of property taxes, I'm all on board as long as we can come up with something that's going to be equitable. Because if they kill the cash cows, like Sandy Springs, the city of Atlanta, Alpharetta, everybody's going to suffer. And that's not good for the state. And I don't think the next governor is going to want to start off that way. So with that being said, if there's no other comments, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Thank you, Tom and Sean. Oops, excuse me. So next is the intergovernmental agreement next? Okay. It was split on a second page. I thought I might have lost track. So next item is the intergovernmental agreement, jail services agreement between the City of Alpharetta and the City of Milton. Director.
We'll go with Chris tonight. That works great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lagerblum.
Yes, absolutely. Mayor and Council, I'm going to take this one tonight and then the one right after this, and maybe I'll make the bulk of the presentation as one, and then see what kind of fill-in I might do when we get to the second item. This one's focused on Milton, the next one on Sandy Springs. So in order to do this any justice, I have to go back and give you some background as to how we've gotten to today. I won't go back into the major details, but I'll do it for the public's benefit that our jail was closed because the sheriff was operating it. The sheriff decided not to continue to operate it. As a city, we elected to open our jail because we felt it had enough community benefit, enough public safety benefit to do that. It has since been open and operating, and is open and operating for Alpharetta inmates. One of the things we've always talked about in getting it back open as an Alpharetta facility was to figure out how we could provide those regional services to others in North Fulton in the form of an intergovernmental agreement with either one or two or maybe even three or four cities in North Fulton. The two that are before you tonight are one that's a smaller intergovernmental agreement, we believe, and the second one, which is a larger one. We believe Sandy Springs, just by virtue of where they are, the type of community that they are, the number of police officers that they have, they're higher users of the jail than Milton might be, but these two are brought to you in sequence tonight. We feel as though we could bring these before you, ask for your approval, and not bring a co-item that would ask to increase the staffing in the jail. We believe that our expenses, those expenses that you've approved up to this point, are the expenses to continue to operate the jail, and that we can bring these two agreements tonight and have these be net revenue to the equation, but not require any additional staffing to be able to take these on. I will tell you, just for the purposes of the formalities of the agreement, they would begin on July the 1st of 2026. They would go through June the 30th of 2029. They could terminate upon a 90-day convenience clause for both parties. So when you look at really a 3-year agreement, we're really dealing with a 3-year agreement that has an escape clause for either party upon 90 days if we needed to. I want to take us back to where we were in our city council retreat when you all sort of directed, Chris, go negotiate with these cities, find a subscription model that makes sense, find a fixed revenue stream and then a volumetric revenue stream in the form of a per head basis. We were not successful in doing that and finding any type of agreement that I could bring back to you and say, we have agreement, at least tentative agreement of another city to bring forward an agreement in that model. There were a couple of agreements that were done around us bringing these IGAs forward tonight. I can tell you that the city of Roswell has entered into an agreement with Cherokee County and the city of Johns Creek with Forsyth County. I will anecdotally, in my own editorialization of those two agreements, say that they're not necessarily as supportive of the operations of those two cities as I would be seeking if I were seeking a similar agreement on behalf of Alpharetta. But I can tell you those two agreements are in place. These would be the other two cities in North Fulton, although I can tell you that if we're successful and move forward with these two cities, both the cities of Roswell and Johns Creek do have an interest in continuing to talk with us about coming into our jail. They were just faced with that opportunity of not having anything, they found something. And that's why they went to Cherokee County and why they went to Forsyth County. What's proposed in both of these agreements tonight is a per day fee with no partial day credit, meaning that we only will bill in increments of 1.0. So if you come in and that we believe should be the actual day beginning at midnight. So if you come in at 9 o'clock, for example, at night, that 9 to midnight stretch is one calendar day, as well as midnight until the following midnight is one calendar day. So for the purposes of billing, there will be no partial days. Again, I mentioned that we believe that we're able to do this within the staffing that exists today. The agreements are written such that we are a housing entity. We'll be a housing entity for local inmates as well as inmates that may be transferred somewhere else after they are brought to Alpharetta. Although I will highlight that both of these agreements that are presented to you tonight give that transport requirement to the originating agency, meaning if Sandy Springs is the originating agency and they bring somebody to our jail that needs to go to Rice Street, Sandy Springs will be the ones that will come get that person and take them to Rice Street. Same thing with Milton. There's one difference between the Milton agreement, which is the first of the two agreements in Sandy Springs, and that is because we anticipate Milton to be a low-volume user, that if there happens to be availability in our transport unit that is otherwise going to Rice Street because of our inmates, this IGA does contemplate that we would have the authority, with Milton's blessing, to allow one of their prisoners that needed to be transported to Rice Street to ride along if that seat was available. They know very well that if that seat's not available or if that transport unit is not otherwise going, that the responsibility for the transport rests with their agency. Same thing with medical care. To the extent that we have to transport a prisoner to the hospital for medical care, this agreement contemplates that we would maintain care and custody of that inmate for a period of an hour until notice could be given to the originating agency, who then could send somebody to stand guard until such time as that person was able to be brought back to the jail. Those are the real nuts and bolts of this agreement. It's probably not perfect. I know we've talked today about there being potentially escalating clauses in it in future agreements, or should that be in this agreement? Ironically, there are no escalating clauses in any of the other jail agreements that have existed to this point that I can find in either Cherokee County, Forsyth County, or even the old Smyrna agreement. That was something that was pushed back a little bit by at least the Sandy Springs, saying their city council is used to a jail housing agreement that is a fixed fee, that is a known fixed fee. So I bring that to you tonight, recognizing that I have the ability to negotiate the best I can in hopes that I can get hopefully all 7 of you to agree that it was a good negotiation. There are better ways, I'm sure, that I could have done this one, but tonight at least something is brought to you that at least gets us going, and gets us going with some customers, with some actual data that we can start to look at and make better decisions going forward, some revenue coming in the door. I'll stop at that and see what questions you might have, and certainly have the chief is here as well if you have any questions specifically about the staffing or the day-to-day operations of the jail. The chief is here operationally and happy to answer those as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lagerbloom, and I appreciate the efforts. I would never, and I'm not going to second guess the people in the negotiating room. I mean, been there. I wasn't in that room. Let me touch on the last thing first about escalation. In terms of the structure of the agreements, I guess the one thing that I'm mildly troubled about is fixing a price for 3 years as opposed to a one-year agreement that can renew subject to it would be like an escalation, but you're discussing what next year's per diem per day would be. And as written, I understand that we could terminate the agreement and start all over, but I think my preference might have been to have a one-year agreement and then revisit the costs as you go forward, rather than fixing 3 years. Because one thing we can say with almost absolute certainty is our expenses will go up. And as our expenses go up, I would think that we're taking on a larger share if the per day amount is the same over a 3-year period. Now, as a couple of questions here, just so I can have some numbers for the point of argument or discussion, maybe not argument, but discussion when we get to a vote. As I understand it, in the budget we just passed, it's a $2.5 million expense item before any offset. Is that basically in round numbers?
That's right.
And do we have projections from the two cities as to how much money that will bring in?
If these two cities, based upon what we anticipate, their self-reporting numbers to how many per day, I calculate that somewhere north of 1.1 million, but not 1.2.
Okay. So if it's $2.5 million expense and we bring in 1.1, Alphareta's portion of that is 1.4 that's left over.
Correct.
Okay. And if I understand it, do we have a number projected for Sandy Springs?
I believe that's the bulk of it. The number that's projected at 15, almost 15 people a day is a million, 1.1, just shy of 1.1 million. So I think honestly, that's the bulk of the revenue.
And I'm not second guessing what the expectations are, but 15 times 165 times 365 days is just a tad over 900,000. Would there be more than 15 per day between the two cities, or is that the total?
15 calculated for Sandy Springs, 3 for Milton.
Okay, so it'd be 18, okay.
Correct.
And in terms of our numbers, how many, based on our historical, since April or whenever the jail's been up and running full speed, about what's our average per day of Alpharetta detainees?
Seem some 3 to 7, 3 to 7. Chief's nodding his head the right direction.
So midpoint would be 5?
Say 3 to 5 is accurate. We've been as high as 8 or 9.
Okay.
We have average between 3 and 5.
So 4?
So 4. Okay. All right. And I just, as we have discussion, I wanted to have some numbers, not my numbers, but, what the city's numbers are to have a discussion in a minute. And I know this is Q&A time, so. All right, thanks, sir.
Any other questions at this point? Councilwoman Reeves?
What would be the reporting back, the expected reporting back to the council?
Mr. Lagerbloom, I think that might have been for you.
Sort of for you.
I'm sorry, I was talking with the
What would be
attorney.
the expected reporting back to the council? I would expect that we would not wait a year and find out if our numbers were on track. Will you be
No, I'll be
reporting
watching this
quarterly or? and that
Daily,
might
I'm
be up
happy to
you.
report monthly, happy to report quarterly. Yes, I'll be watching this daily, so as a monthly report would be very easy to do.
And that can be changed, like I said, whatever council's will is the data
just,
will be available.
We already communicate on a regular basis with certain stats. We'll just add this to it.
Yeah,
No problem.
Yeah, I had had a discussion prior to the meeting that maybe that could be included in our weekly reports that we get as just an additional statistic about number of residents in the jail. I'll call them residents. How's that sound? And from each respective city also, so that we can have some idea how we're doing.
I think that would be reasonable. I don't think there'll be any objections. Councilman Brady, I saw him first, and then Councilman Guido.
First of all, thank you so much for working through this. Mr. Lagerman, I know you got thrown a new project and you're trying to put it together, right? We took $2.5 million as an expense item booked into our budget. But the reality is a global kind of alliance that you would say in North Fulton will really be the benefit of the jail. So for just a proximity, we're in the middle of all these cities to take a look at that. When you look kind of forward, maybe into Sandy Springs, is Sandy Springs pretty much the same as what you would see from Johns Creek and Rossville that you're also approaching? We enlighten us a little bit of those conversations, or the impact they would make if they called you and said they're canceling their contract with the county of Forsyth and Cherokee.
Yeah, I don't have a, I don't know that I necessarily can quantify that as well with Roswell maybe as I could with Johns Creek, and that's only so much as to read the staff report that was presented to the Johns Creek City Council, which would suggest that, I'm not sure how they hit these numbers, but they would suggest that they amount to about 22 arrests per month in Johns Creek. I just have a hard, I can't make that number reconcile in my head well. But I think, both of those cities, similar to us, kind of mid, population-wise, number of police officers, I would think that their volume would be would be comparable. If we were to eventually bring them in, I think Sandy Springs by far the most heavy user, and probably Milton the lightest.
Thank you.
Councilman Drito.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lagerboom, and I don't know if this has been done, or I know we've had brief discussions about this. and maybe Chief Lindgren ran some numbers on this, but is there any way to kind of, develop a report or something that shows the value that the city's getting from having this jail operational here in our city, meaning in prior, when our police had to take arrestees down to Atlanta, they were off our streets for an average of maybe 3 or 4 hours on average, right? Maybe longer, depending upon what the arrest was all about. So the downtime of our officers, the wear and tear on our equipment, driving down there back and forth. I'm just wondering if there's a way to quantify that value, part of being able to show at least the city's cost to the jail, that we're actually gaining some benefit by having the jail open in Alpharetta for our own police department's purposes. I don't know if that can be quantified, but there's definitely some value there as far as, from a public safety model, having our police remain in the city at all times and not being diverted for different situations. So I'm wondering if that's something we can try to work on and come up with some sort of number or value of what that would mean to the city with the jail being open now.
So I think the answer is yes, and we can try to quantify all sorts of different things. But yes, so this has been a topic that there's been some attempts at adding quantity over time. Like at one point there was a discussion about a jail authority, and one of the big things was how much is the out of service time? Is the person going to the jail and getting back to the jail? And then you throw in the layers of uncertainty once you get there, because then there's always well, did we get there when they're doing their head counted? Did we get there when the actual jail's open, or did we get there when the jail's closed, and do we have to sit in the parking lot? And there's always those things that go along with it. So yes, we can probably quantify it with just some qualifiers. It says, as long as we agree to these assumptions, yeah, we can give you some quantities. And we dove into that a little bit earlier today when we pulled out the presentation that was made the last time the authority was Kirk and I were actually together when we pulled out the presentation from the last time this authority was contemplated, when we looked at those out of service numbers and downtime, et cetera. So yes, I think we can.
Well, not only that, I would say, and it doesn't have to be a dollar amount, but there's some value in basically enforcing the law even more proactively, where there's certain arrestees that if we had to transport down to Atlanta all the time,
Sure.
Depending upon what's going on in our city at that moment in time, it may not be practical for our police to take someone down there. So they basically release them on their own reconnaissance until they get before our judge, right? So what comes to mind is DUI, for example. If someone's arrested on DUI, in the past, I know our police had to, in some situations, basically, release them until their court hearing. So, it's things like that that brings value to the city as well, not necessarily in dollars, but in basically upholding our laws here within the city limits to allow our police to enforce the law more efficiently, I guess is a good way of putting it. Anyway, thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any other questions. Do we have any public comment cards?
No, we do not. Looks like Katie wants to say something.
Councilwoman Reese.
If there was agreement among council, is it upsetting the apple cart to try to narrow the contracted amount of time so that we could address what Councilman Hypes mentioned? I mean, the only thing that we know is that the costs will go up. That's the only thing that we do know. That's a given. So
The one
the
thing
3
I
years
would,
doesn't address.
sorry to interrupt, but my concern is, are these agreements already approved by the other boards, the other councils?
Believe they either are or they're going. I think they're going tomorrow. So Milton would have been today. I think our timing is going to be difficult. What I was going to suggest, and this may be a terrible idea, so I probably should not.
It wouldn't be the first time we've heard terrible
It's
ideas
probably
in
not
this
the
chamber.
first. Yeah, it's really not the first time I probably suggested a terrible idea. But the easy tweak would be to have this be a one-year agreement with 2 one-year renewals. So that's the easy tweak to get to the same term that just has but with a 90-day out clause, it's still the functional result, still the fact that we can still get out of the agreement in 90 days. But if you wanted to approve, I believe I could get word to the other 2 managers that if we approved it as a one-year agreement with 2 one-year renewals, they would be satisfied with that.
Legally, like, if it's a one-year renewal, wouldn't that just, like, unless it's stipulated that it's a different cost, it would be renewed at their discretion at the same cost, correct?
Right, unless we add in a specific escalator, then, for instance, prior versions of the agreement that had a longer, like a 3-year term, but it's following that annual renewal, so it really terminates at the end of every year and then starts over, still had the 90-day provision. So it would renew under the exact same terms. So if you wanted it to be an increased cost, you would have to amend the agreement.
I hate to be like, I'm really grateful that we're looking at something here, but the costs are going to go up. Like 100% the costs will go up. They will escalate, and
Well, they won't go up by 100%.
they won't go up by 100%. That's true. But there's 100% accuracy that they will go up, and so I'm just worried we're locking ourselves in here and potentially painting ourselves into a political corner as well, because they're out there now. So, I defer to everybody, but I share John's concern.
Councilman Driscoll.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to just clear up one thing, just to make sure I understand it. The 90-day clause, we can cancel it, they can cancel it for any reason, or we can put in any kind of suggested language because cost isn't in line. I mean, this is something new that's been birthed out of requirement, not our desire. So we're operating North Fulton Jail in Alpharetta and trying to provide these services. So if costs start to rise, because we're not hitting numbers, there's nothing in the language that's going to prevent us from making a suggestion. Is that correct?
No, we could seek to amend it at any time and provide notice to any of the other jurisdictions that unless we increase the cost and negotiate an amendment to the agreement, we're going to provide the 90-day notice of termination. We could do that at any time.
Councilman Reed.
I want to be careful what I say here, but it's important that we get these agreements in place. I'm not so caught up in the annual increases because of, I think, the value of the jail being open here in Alpharetta. It is to our own citizens and business community. I think Ms. Eswine kind of mentioned how we could kind of renegotiate and, use the 90-day clause. I'd hate to go into these agreements with these 2 cities with a little bit of an adversarial position of trying to change it at the 12th hour. I think we have relationships with these 2 cities that we could have those discussions in the future if need be. I think the reality is if they're positioning to approve these agreements tomorrow night, that we should just move forward with it and discuss how we address any sort of increase in the rate in the coming years. I'm hoping that we get other cities on board and that doesn't really become much of an issue for us. But hate to look, and this is going to sound terrible, a gift horse in the mouth. We have some ability to monetize the cost to our citizens here. And for even a 3% escalation, whatever it is, we're not talking significant dollars that's going to change the world. I'd rather deal with that in the future if our costs escalate to a point that becomes a conversation with these 2 cities, because I think our relationship with them is open enough to be able to have those discussions either through the mayors or what have you. And like Alpharetta, we would probably listen and do the right thing. and I trust they would do the right thing. So, just my point of view.
Councilman Brady.
I agree. I mean, I'd much prefer to have something tonight that gives you a little bit of the authority to be able to operate within some kind of flexibility to the best efforts for the city that will incorporate the comments you kind of had tonight without having the restrictions of, we have $2.5 million out there. I'd hate to say goodbye to 1.1. That would make a big impact for us. That is so restrictive. And even having the comments tonight, I don't want to take any of your negotiating skills away, but at least have the ability that you can do the best for us. I'd rather deal with 3% than lose 100% of it.
Any other questions? Okay. We don't have any other questions. Mr. Lagerbloom,
No,
you
I
ready
don't have
for us to call for a motion?
There'll actually be two items in sequence. The first would be the intergovernmental agreement with Milton. It would seek your approval. The second with Sandy Springs, seek your approval there as well.
Okay. Do I have a motion from council?
And we do need to ask for public comment.
My apologies. Thank you, Ms. Laura Husky. Do we have any public comment cards?
No, we do not.
But there just might be someone here who would like to come forward and speak on this item. Please do so if that is your interest. I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do we have a motion from council?
We do, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement, jail services agreement between the city of Alpharetta and the city of Milton.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Driscoll, a second by Councilman Dorito. Now, any discussion? Councilman Hides.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just make this my discussion for both of the motions, so it'll just cover both. I understand the value of the jail. I understand, I'm looking at Chief Langren, I understand what this means to the men and women of our police force and to the safety of Alpharetta, and being able to put suspected bad guys away and get them off the street is a priority. And then, so now we're confronted with, do we do it with the jail or do we do it with seeking some other jurisdiction? And it has to be said by me, this is all Fulton County's responsibility. I want to say it again. It is a core function of a county sheriff's department to provide a jail. That's the end of the sentence. That's their job. But they're not taking folks, misdemeanor and below, so it's not an option, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But I asked for the numbers a little bit ago about how many we house and what we can expect and what little bit of information we have about at least one other jurisdiction, being Johns Creek. And if it's 3 persons on average per day for Milton, times 165 times 365 days, that's 180,675. That's what it will end up costing Milton. Sandy Springs with 15, it end up costing them $903,000 to house people that are being jailed, 15. When you add those together, 18 people in the jail per day on average, that's 1.084 million. If we are historically averaging 4 times 165, if that's the going rate, times 365, our cost ought to be $240,900. That's not our cost. When we offset our $2.5 million expense minus the $1.1 million of outside revenue, our cost is $1.4 million. It's not $241,000. And just so we all understand what we're doing and addressing the issue of value, the value of the jail, If you take that, if you take the 4 persons per day in the Alpharetta Jail times 365 days, that's 1,460 detainees per year, and you divide that into the 1.4 million, we're housing people each night at $959 a night, not $165. Something to be said that we could take them down to the 4 seasons, and put them in the 4 seasons and make out less than $959 a night versus $165. So we've got Milton at $165, we've got Sandy Springs at $165, we've got the city of Johns Creek at $200,000, so they say. I agree with Mr. Lagerbloom that that number does not seem realistic whatsoever for 22 per month. But that's a number, and I watched their hearing. That's the number they believe. And we're $959 a month. Or excuse me, $959 per person. And, you know, each of us will just have to sort our own conscience, try to best understand as we can, you know, how the jail fits in to the overall, and determine what the value of the jail is. You know, if you divided that 1,460 into 2.5 million, you know, we're going to be a couple $1,000 a night for detainees, and I don't know that we want to do that. But everybody's got their number. Everybody's going to say, okay, that's high enough, I'm dealing out. We should go look to another jurisdiction, be it Forsyth, Cobb, Cherokee, someplace where we can get a number that's more in line, albeit with great inconvenience to our police staff. That's all factored into the value. It is no secret from day one I have struggled with this. And I have struggled with it not from a jailing perspective, but from a budgetary perspective. We've got a very interesting budget with declining commercial revenues, increasing expenses, locked-in expenses that are increasing year over year. And when we have one-time large expenses dropped in our lap, we have handled them. This is a yearly recurring one-time. This is not a one-time, this is a recurring expense. What I hope to do, if and when this is approved, is to take a look at actual numbers, not projected numbers. And certainly by the retreat in January, have a fix on both what our budgetary constraints look like for fiscal year 28 and measure that against what these numbers are in fact, and having a discussion about what our alternatives are if we feel like we're not best serving our public with these numbers. But my takeaway from this is this vote is about $959 per Alpharetta detainee versus $165 for our surrounding sister cities.
Any other discussion? Mr. Lagerbloom, did you explore the Ritz-Carlton before you came to us with that budget?
No, I did not.
Oh.
No.
Okay. I didn't think so. I didn't know that they were an option, but I appreciate it. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion, do we have a motion? Yes, we have. Okay, it took so long, I lost track. Thank you, Kirk. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lagerbloom. Thank you, Public Safety. Thank you, Council. And we will monitor the progress as well. One of the things that I will say is that I truly believe that Alpharetta is so well run, and especially in our public safety and even in the jail, that it was stood up in months, will serve better, not just our community, but other communities. I think other communities just have to see that value proposition. And hopefully, those numbers will reflect a little better, and the cost to our taxpayers will be better. But we shall see, and we'll monitor that closely, I assure you. That being said, all those in favor, please vote yes. We did?
You actually voted on the first one, Mayor. We just need
First,
the second
okay.
one. We need to do all that one more time if we can with Sandy Springs.
All right, I got to cancel back because I've already switched it. There we go.
Mayor, I'd like to propose approval of the intergovernmental agreement of jail services agreement between the city of Alpharetta and the city of Sandy Springs.
I have a motion by Councilman Driscoll, second by Councilman Dorito. Any further discussion? Councilman Dorito.
Thank you, Mayor. I was waiting till the second one was read to make a couple of comments. As Councilman Hipes kind of alluded to, I think this has been a well-thought-out decision for all of us individually. A lot of great thoughts from Councilman Hipes, from my fellow council members and the mayor, since we started discussing about reopening the jail. The only thing I really want to add is I also was looking at this as, investing in the future of the city. We have some pretty significant projects coming down the pike here soon that will continue to attract people to come both invest, work, and enjoy themselves here within our city limits. With greater population coming to our city, there's greater needs for public safety. And so, not that I want to see the attendees coming to our jail increase from within the city limits, but, it probably will, because the population is going to grow. People coming here, working here, maybe going to a big arena that we don't have in place, or a performing arts center that may be part of the plan for North Point Mall, if it gets approved. So, I view this also as an investment for the future. I mean, we're speaking about current operational numbers, which I would, suspect we'll find out over time if those numbers are accurate, or should they be lower, should they be higher? I don't know. But I also want to reiterate that I hope this triggers our city administrator and the mayor to be able to talk to these other cities to shift over to Alpharetta's use of our jail as well, because I do think we're on the right path. I supported this when it first came up for reasons that were discussed then, but I thought through this before this evening, and I really believe that this is the right thing for the city. As the mayor said, this is a great city, and we make good decisions, and sometimes the decisions that are made by this council, previous councils, may not be fully appreciated until we see the outcome of those decisions, what it results in. And many times, those decisions have proven the city to become either even greater and even stronger as a city in the way we manage things. And so I do think this is the right thing for the city, and I know we're going to work hard to continue to monetize this facility, but I don't want to lose sight of the purpose of opening the jail for our citizens. And by the way, Fulton County is at fault here. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about this if it wasn't for the lack of support from our Fulton County leadership in public safety on doing the right thing. This is their responsibility. But I also don't want to be the public to be clouded by the fact that something magic is going to happen all of a sudden. The sheriff or someone's going to reach out to us, you know what, we're going to reopen that jail, and we're going to help you guys out, and this is the right thing to do. They don't always do the right things, and we know that. And it's frustrating, but it is what it is. And we're as I said during the budget discussion, we're in this city that has been developed that is, the envy of many cities around this country. And it's because we make these tough decisions, and we balance the budgetary restraints of trying to do the right thing so that we don't basically overspend the taxpayers' money. But there's a lot more benefits to this decision, I think, than just worrying about the money and having, every cost of the jail covered. And so I do think we'll look at this for a year or two from now, and it'll be a positive reaction, and we'll see greater things happen here as far as continuing to monetize this jail so that the cost to the Alpharetta taxpayer will be mitigated.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Thank you, everyone. So the next item up on the agenda is a request for proposal 26-114 Alpha Loop Design on North Winds Parkway, Haynesbridge Road, and Morrison Parkway. Director Savage,
Yes.
you're lucky up.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a little bit of a precursor for the T-Splosh 3. If you remember, T-Splosh 3 vote last week, we had North Winds on it, as well as another couple other sections in Tier 2. So this is the design work associated with that work, and it's sort of a cluster of projects all in the same area, so we get economies of scale, surveying, and engineering work as well. So we went out for an RFP, and Pat Dawson Consulting Firms, which is an Alpharetta-based local company off of North Winds, is the highest rated firm at a cost of $314,800. They're looking about a year to complete all the necessary design work and permitting, and that would get us in line with the T-Splosh 3 vote as well. So Public Works does recommend moving forward with this contract.
Do we have any questions for Director Sisevich? Councilman Hikes, you're first.
Director Pete, if for any reason, God forbid, I can't express an opinion, but if T-Splosh 3 doesn't pass and we do this design work, are there T-Splosh 2 funds available under Alpha Loop for us to utilize this design?
There are unallocated T-Splosh 2 funds.
7.7 million.
I'll take your word for that. I do know that given what happened recently with the county, we had those funds have.
Well, I'll take your word for it. I think I saw that somewhere written. But the question is, we're doing this with the anticipation of T-Splosh 3 passing, and before we spend $250,000, in the event T-Splosh 3 doesn't pass, can we still execute on this plan with T-Splosh $2?
We could use T-Splosh $2, correct.
But this will be for T-Splosh 3.
Correct, yes.
I mean the construction of this
Correct,
design.
yes, yes.
Okay.
It does T-Splosh $2 qualify for this work.
Yeah, don't want to do a design if we can't use it. So.
Councilwoman Reeves.
So obviously not knowing what will happen with T-Splosh yet, everything is sort of prioritized out in the T-Splosh vote that we took last week. And additionally, we still don't know what may come in the mall area.
Correct.
We don't know what will happen there, but would it be rational to think that we may have some road improvement necessities?
This project will improve pedestrian mobility in that area, most definitely.
Any other questions for Director Sisevich? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment cards on this item?
No, sir, we do not.
However, if anyone wants to come forward and speak on this item, now's your chance. I do not see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Make a motion that we approve the approval of the award of RFP 26-114 for Alpha Loop Design on North Winds Parkway, Haynesbridge Road, and Morrison Parkway to Pat Dawson Engineering Firm for an amount not to exceed $314,800, and authorization for mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Motion by Councilwoman Reeves, second by Mayor Pro Tem Markle. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Pete. Now we'll move on to the work session item. I believe we have, first item is Fire Prevention and Protection Ordinance text amendments. Chief, are you taking this? My agenda says Ethan was.
If you don't mind, I'll start, and then when you ask tough questions, I'll throw it to Ethan.
Throw them under the tires.
There we go. As I mentioned before, firefighters have many skills, many talents. IT is not necessarily one of them. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We are here seeking your thoughts and feedback on the proposed text amendments that you all have to Chapter 20. In a broad overview sense, what we are seeking to do with these amendments is to primarily increase transparency so that users, whether they be residents, businesses, developers, et cetera, have an easier time understanding what the city's expectations are. In addition, we want to make sure that we have consistency among all the different sections. And again, clarity is a big thing that right now, if you have had the opportunity to read through, clarity is not one of the first words that comes to mind when we read the current text. In addition, what we want to do is to align our fire codes with the state minimums. It's what we have to follow, it's what we do follow, but we want our code, our ordinances to read that way. Just as a general overview for anybody who may not be familiar, the Georgia General Assembly actually is the body that creates the state minimum standards. That's usually implemented through the state fire marshal's office. Those codes usually have a high degree of correlation or reliance on the International Fire Code, the IFC, and or NFPA standards. Within those codes, there is occasionally some room, some ability for the AHJ, the authority having jurisdiction, which in this case, of course, is the city, for us to apply those codes in the way that best meets our particular circumstances. Not to change the code in any substantial way, but to apply it to the ways that it creates the best life safety services and safety net for our specifics. In general, the changes that we're proposing can be grouped into 4 broad categories: administrative updates, transparency, public safety, and just modernization of the codes. Again, those are, we're not seeking to change the intent, change the code itself. We're just trying to provide more clarity, more transparency for the users of the code. The 2 big points of administrative clarification are, again, as I mentioned, very clearly aligning and tying our code to the state minimum standards. That's where we have to be. That's what we want everybody to understand our code and our expectation is. In addition, it clarifies who has jurisdiction over reviews, life safety reviews, as stated there, hydrants, fire protection systems, life safety features, the jurisdiction, or excuse me, the authority having jurisdiction is the fire marshal's office, the fire department, and so we clarified that within the new amendments. In the existing code, it was just a little, lacked a little clarity on that. In terms of emergency access, there are kind of 2 major things that we are seeking to clarify and to improve, and really it's bringing the code up to standard, current standard. The first is for any gate that crosses a fire access road, whether it be a business or a neighborhood. Currently, the expectation that the code allows for what's known as a siren operating system or a Yelp system. What we are seeking to move that to is what's known as a the click to enter system. It's controlled with our radios that only police and fire have. It will increase our ability to access the system as well as decrease anybody else, any bad actor or any unattended actor's ability to use the system. The siren operated system, people have found different ways to access it when they are not intended to. So again, seeking to improve our access at the same time, decrease others' access to the areas. The other issue in terms of emergency access is what's usually known as IFC 510, and that is essentially a radio standard. In many buildings with building construction, size, et cetera, these days, it's not uncommon for emergency personnel to have issues with our radios, transmitting out, receiving transmissions in. So the IFC Section 510 sets forward testing standards that allows us to require them being primarily the developers, to increase, to do what's necessary to add the needed electronic components so that the radio coverage inside buildings is adequate when we need it. And that would specifically apply to new development. There are some changes to the code in terms of verbiage for event safety and large gatherings, but all the changes that we put in there are in alignment with the current state minimum standards. So it's not necessarily, it's not inherently a change. We're not exceeding authority. We're just aligning it with current state minimum standards. So kind of an overall, we are not looking to replace any sort of state code. We are not looking to create our own code system. We are just simply trying to increase transparency, create consistency, and align with state standards. I suppose that'll do until you tell me it won't. So and now Chief Talbot and I will do our best to answer any questions, or just, again, we're just primarily looking for feedback for what you have, thoughts, concerns, questions, et cetera.
Any questions from council? Councilwoman Reeves.
Regarding the gates that you're changing to radio control, who's responsible for the cost of that change?
So ultimately, it will be the owner of the gate. And the way that'll be applied is it is primarily an expectation of new installations until an existing installation has significant, and I'll have to defer to Chief Talbot on how we define significant repair, maintenance, et cetera. So if your current system is operating fine, we're not requiring any sort of update until something goes wrong and you have to significantly repair or maintain it. Then we'll require you to update it.
Okay. And then one other question I had about regarding the new regulations regarding large gatherings and fairs. And has the recent practice of what you've required matched the state guidelines? Are we just sort of enshrining what you all are already requiring?
Yes, ma'am. We're looking to codify what we have been doing in practice already. Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Dorito.
Thank you, Chief, for a great presentation. And I'm not sure this ties into this, but just a couple of quick questions. In the state code, the requirement for buildings that are over 2 stories, when does the state code require elevators?
I'll have to defer to Chief Talbot on that.
Good evening, council. So state code, that's going to fall underneath the International Building Code. Typically, it's at 3 communicating floors.
So the 3rd floor requires an elevator? Or
So I can't answer directly. It's more of a building code and not associated with fire code specifically. But from my knowledge, it's generally around 3 communicating floors. So
I'll tell you, Chief, why I'm asking. My daughter lived in the Catherine in Roswell there. It's 3 stories. Lived on that 3rd floor. And being a former fireman myself, I climbing those stairs constantly to go visit her and stuff. I always wondered, like, God, if something happens in this building, it's gonna be a hell of a time for the fire department to get up to the 3rd floor, climbing those steps, right? Fast enough, let alone the equipment you have to carry, right? I don't know if you can, and if it's part of the building code, maybe we got to talk to our building department about that. But is there any way to enhance the code here in Alpharetta that any buildings over 2 stories, any new buildings, obviously new construction, would require an elevator?
I think it's a valid point.
Emergency access?
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. I don't know if it's quite on the, would be appropriate for the agenda for fire code at this point. It would be more of a developmental zoning requirement.
Okay. I'll follow up on that then. with the
Great question.
building folks. And the other thing. Within chapter 20, is there requirements for our fire department inspectors to go into businesses, say, in the evening, where there's too many people? I mean, to make sure they're within the capacity of what that facility is legally required to not go over? Do we have inspections like in the evenings and stuff for that type of thing?
Sure. So we get all of our power for inspections through Title 25. That's through state legislation, which requires us as a fire department to enforce the state minimum fire codes and those specified occupancies. We're mainly complaint-driven when it comes to occupancy load factors. In terms of if we have complaints that there are issues, we have recourse where we can follow up with our officers on the fire trucks 24/7. We also have on-call staff, as well as just conducting a regular investigation to see if they are warranted. We also particularly look at if we have like any major events such as FIFA World Cup, for instance. We really try to communicate out to business owners or places that could potentially have those issues with overcrowding or occupancy loads, to really share that communication with them just to keep them in check.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Well done, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
And since this was did my screen time out? Oh, there we go.
Did I break it?
No, you're not going to turn into a pumpkin. I was just, but this is a work session item. We won't be voting on this. It was just to give information to the public and to our council members. And that's the last on our work session items. Ms. Warhusky, do we have any public comment cards?
No, sir, we do not.
However, if there's something you'd like to come forward and speak to, now's your opportunity. I do not see anybody coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Reports. Gentlemen, Councilman Heights.
I can't brag enough on the city, CVB, and Central City Tavern for the World Cup evening that we had here in downtown Alpharetta. I have never seen that much energy in our downtown. It rivaled what we have done on the Christmas tree lighting, where people are in the town green shoulder to shoulder. But this was more than the town green. It was a celebration by the whole city, and it's the best kind of celebration because it was driven by private business coming to the city with whom we partnered. And my hat's off to the owner of Central City Tavern for bringing us all together. It was amazing. Pardon me. It was amazing.
Councilwoman Reeves.
So sort of along that vein, I had somebody in from out of town, and she hasn't been to Alpharetta in probably 25 years. So it's been a minute since she's come to visit us. And I was downtown on Friday night. If you couldn't find something to do in downtown Alpharetta on Friday night or on Saturday, I think there's something wrong with you. I mean, we had the Moonlight Market, we had a band, and we had the World Cup, and we had just about anything you could possibly want. And it was a great weekend to show off our town. It was hot as Hades, though.
Any other report? Councilman Dorito.
You know, I don't know if, I'm sure public safety has looked at this, but, God, there was a hell of a crowd there. Probably the largest one I've seen that Councilman Heiss kind of alluded to. But the public safety perspective in me looked at that, and I looked at the drone footage of all the people down there. I think in preparing for those type of events in the future, I think it'd be good for the city to take a look at kind of access points to the crowd, whether they have alleyways, that, if there's a medical situation or something, or a fight breaks out, whatever could happen, right? That our public safety have access, more easier access to any sort of type of emergency that occurs. But that's just my point of view. When you looked at that crowd, it looked like sardines in there. And I was thinking, if I'm in the middle of that crowd with a young child or somebody and something happens, and you know, I'd want like the medical attention or police, whatever needed, would get to me quickly. So I just wonder if our police and fire department could take a look at that and just make sure that we have access points that they feel comfortable, that they can do their job when needed, so.
Councilman Reeves.
So I think the citizen zoning information meetings are just about the coolest thing. Other cities don't do them, and I love explaining to people that we try to come out before planning commission even happens, and I think they are fantastic. And we had a packed house here last Wednesday night to talk about the mall. There was people on the other side for other applications, but she did a great job, and it was pretty incredible to see all those folks come out. Oh, and I'm supposed to say, John and I are having, Councilman Hoyps, and I are having a town hall on Thursday night. I hope everybody can come. Thank you.
So, congratulations, because after tomorrow, you will no longer be getting texts and spam in your emails and in your mailboxes. But if you have not voted yet, please vote tomorrow. It is important. We're going to have a new governor after this election, and it's important for people to vote. So please, if you haven't voted yet, take some time tomorrow. Vote early. Don't leave it to weather and all that kind of stuff. And if you have other family members and people you know that haven't voted, try to get them to the polls, because it's going to be a very big change after the stable Kemp governorship over the last 8 years. And so please make sure you get out. It's going to impact us here locally and in the state. So just wanted to make sure everybody's aware. Don't sleep late. Thank you. That's it. I appreciate everybody's efforts this evening. And we do not have an executive session, do we? There was applause. Do we need a motion to adjourn? I guess we do need to make it formalized.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilwoman Reeves. All those in favor of adjourning, let's do it. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.